Chances are you've heard us talking about the proposed Quebec Constitution. Simon Jolin-Barrette has been going on about this for a while. There are hearings in Quebec City, many groups attending, some for, some against, I think mostly against, including the Quebec Bar Association. We had someone on from there just the other day saying that this is not a good idea, specifically with respect to use of the notwithstanding clause. But Joe Ortona, chair of the English Montreal School Board, president of the Quebec English School Board Association, was there as well making his case, and he is on the line. Joe, thank you for coming back.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks
to
for
you.
having me on.
Listen, Joe, can I just ask, I want to use the word and you tell me if it's accurate. Is it fair to say that your meeting with Simon Jolin-Barrette was contentious?
Well, yeah, I guess, but it's contentious because we sort of get invited there just so that the government can say, look, we invited a whole bunch of people with a wide variety of perspectives. But one thing is clear. He absolutely had no intention of debating or discussing or even touching upon the subject of Bill 1, the Constitution. He asked me all sorts of questions, anything but nothing having to do with what we were actually there for.
Yeah, which is the really weird part, because I read in the Gazette report, it seems to me like he was trying to basically debate you.
Maybe, yeah, trying to bait me, trying to just deflect from discussing the actual bill, wanting to, discuss a whole bunch of other things.
Okay.
Is French the common language? Is Quebec a nation?
Let's deal with that. He actually asked you that, right? He said to you whether Quebec is a nation, and he cited something from the EMSB. What was that about?
Well, in 2021, a commissioner, Joe Lala, presented a motion that was 7 pages long and had, I lost count of how many whereases. The resolution was actually against Bill 96 and was calling for, a repeal of the bill. But in one of the whereases, there was a reference that from some university professor that stated that, constitutionally speaking, Quebec was not a nation, it was a province within Canada. And they chose to just target that one paragraph that really had nothing to do with what we were actually voting on. We didn't vote to say Quebec is a nation or Quebec is not a nation. We voted to say we're against Bill 96, we want it repealed.
So when he asked you that question, what was your answer?
Well, my answer was, first of all, I have the chance now here to elaborate even further. The reason why this is contentious is because the words don't necessarily have the same meaning from one language to another. And when we think of nation in English, we think of a country. And Quebec is not a country. Quebec is a province within Canada. But in French, it has a slightly different meaning. When you talk about a people with a distinct culture, and language falls within that, they could form a nation. And so in the same way that I respect all of the First Nations in this country who don't have a distinct country, but are a nation within our borders, right. I fully appreciate that Quebec is a nation. But rather than ask an Anglophone because you want to see if you can get him to say something that's going to spark some sort of nationalist, fervor, why isn't he asking why so many English-speaking Quebecers don't feel valued, don't feel included, and don't feel accepted in this nation? And it's because they're not. The answer is simple, but they won't look there.
Did you bring that up? Did you ask that question?
I did. Unfortunately, in these parliamentary committees, I have to answer their questions. They don't have to answer mine.
Right. There is also, if I read this right, at one point you said to him, this is to Simon Jolin-Barrette, how is it that so many Anglophones don't feel represented in this nation and why so many don't feel valued or included? And as you're suggesting, he did not answer that question.
No, he didn't.
Okay.
He didn't even come close to.
But he did ask you, here you go again with the baiting part, he asked you whether French is, quote, the only official and common language of Quebec. What did you say?
Yeah. Well, again, I recognize that French is the common language. It's the language that's spoken by the majority. But putting this in a law or even putting it in a constitution really has no meaning because you can't control the fact that English-speaking Quebecers also have another common language, and it's English. And you can say that Quebec only has one official language, but that's just constitutionally and factually incorrect. you are allowed to speak English and French in the National Assembly. Yeah. So the National Assembly's official language is not solely French. You are allowed to plead orally or in writing in any of our courts or administrative tribunals in Quebec in English or in French. So to say that the official language of our courts is only French is just incorrect. So there are cases where, English is recognized. This own government, when they amended the Charter of the French language, kept in place many municipalities that have a bilingual status, Westmount, Kirkland, Côte-Saint-Luc, etc. So they are bilingual. I mean, the government is trying to negate what it self-recognizes.
Joe, what is your worry in here that if Bill 1 passes as is, that all of that goes away, or the possibility is that all of it goes away?
What the government what this government is trying to do, first of all, we know that they want to do away with school boards. They're taking that battle all the way to the Supreme Court. They know that as long as we're playing within the rules, we keep beating them and they can't win. So they're trying to change the rules to rig the game in their favor by blocking school boards, unions, and other organizations that receive public money from being able to challenge Quebec legislation. And so they won't respect our constitutionally protected jurisdiction to manage and control our schools. But at the same time, they are overstepping completely on the federal jurisdiction by demanding to want to name who the senators are and who the judges are from Quebec and the lieutenant governor. So what they demand that the federal respects provincial jurisdictions, but they're okay with trampling all over the federal jurisdiction. It's just such hypocrisy and doublespeak.
So we know that the school board has used over $1 million, I think, right, in a variety of challenges against this government. He asked that question today. Did he look for a specific number from you, Joe?
Well, you'll understand, I didn't go there prepared to answer questions about Bill 21 or 96 or the court challenges. I was there for Bill 1. So, no, I'm not going to have the exact number off the top of my head.
Why would that even matter?
Well, what he's trying to do is he's trying to say, you see, they're spending all of this money. This is why we need the Section 5 in the bill to stop them from spending the money. My counter-argument is they're spending money as well, and if they don't want us to spend public money to challenge Quebec legislation, adopt legislation that respects the English-speaking community and respects our right to manage and control our schools. We're not doing this just to go against the Quebec government. We're doing it because the government is adopting legislation that targets and attacks our community. And when that happens, we always have to stand up and make sure that we put a stop to it.
I commend you for doing that, as I think everyone else listening does as well. I want to ask you one other thing that's pointed out in the story. He brought up, Simon Jolin-Barrette brought up this idea about whether equality between men and women should take precedence over freedom of religion. Again, I'm not sure where he was trying to go with that. What happened there?
Again, sort of these baiting questions. First of all, we are the ones who are actually arguing about how important equality, gender equality is, because we're the ones arguing at the Supreme Court that Bill 21 disproportionately discriminates against women, Muslim women in particular. So we're actually the champions of gender equality. But what he's trying to do is he's trying to create this turmoil and this this sentiment coming from some people who are hostile towards religious diversity, that with the idea that freedom of religion somehow is incompatible with gender equality. There is no hierarchy of rights. Rights are rights, and when rights are incompatible, you have to look at them on a case-by-case basis and judge, which rights are actually being infringed upon, and is that infringement reasonable or not. The idea that gender equality trumps religious freedom all the time is absurd, because women can't become priests, and a woman cannot come here in Quebec and say, well, gender equality trumps the Catholic religion. It's not going to fly. Nor can I turn around tomorrow and become a nun. And the minister, of course, understands that very well.
Joe, I got to wrap up. You happy with how it went at the end of the day? Did you get to say what you wanted to say?
Well, I got to say what I wanted to say. In all fairness, when the Quebec Liberal Party and Quebec Solidaire MNAs asked me questions, but the fact that the minister didn't even bother to ask one of the very few representatives of the English-speaking community that are presenting there on Bill 1 questions about if there is anything in the bill that we like, which there isn't, but didn't even bother to ask, if there are things in the bill that are problematic and why. So clearly he doesn't care, and he doesn't have any intention of taking anything we have to say into consideration. So that's going to be very concerning when it comes to whatever final product is going to be adopted.
Joe, always appreciate your time, and good on you, as I said, for standing up for what you believe in. And I think most people listening now commend you for doing that as well. I thank you very much,
Thank
Joe.
you so much.
Take good care. Joe Ortona, Chair of the English Montreal School Board. Those hearings, by the way, on the Constitution continue in Quebec City.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.